with corruptible things as silver and gold, from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb without blemish and without spot.
Okay, he used his precious blood to purchase us when he died on the cross, to release us from all bondage of sin. Naomi was truly a godly woman. We can learn so much from her. She was faithful, selfless, kind hearted, and loyal. We tend to think of blessings in terms of prosperity rather than the high quality relationships God makes possible for us. No matter what our economic situation, we can love and respect the people God has brought into our lives. In so doing, we give and receive blessings. Love is the greatest blessing. Naomi enjoyed a relationship where the greatest bond was faith in God, a relationship of strong mutual commitment, a relationship in which each person tried to do what was best for the other. God's living presence in a relationship overcomes differences that might otherwise create division and disharmony. We too can have a positive and long lasting life changing impact on the life of people who God has placed in our lives, no matter how fleeting. And this includes our children, our relatives, friends, whoever comes into our life, no matter for what space of time, we can, by our lives, have a lasting impact on them. Our lives speak much louder than our words and ought to reflect whom we represent. Ladies, that's the end of my lesson this afternoon. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments.
Over here. Check the hair.
Huh?
Check the hair.
Did you all hear the last part? Mr. Tonya?
Heard about what the questions?
Yeah.
Yes, I heard it.
Oh, okay.
I my thing with Naomi is the great mother-in-law that she was, and I would like, if we could have that discussion on, as you said, that there are some they call the mother-in-law monsters-in-laws out there, and they really have some monsters-in-laws out there.
Yep.
We hear the stories, and we have mothers-in-law. I'm sure we have some mother-in-laws on the chat. How do you know that you are a good mother-in-law? You fulfilling your role. What really is the role of a mother-in-law? So probably we could have that type of discussion. Yeah. I always vouch that I'm going to be the best mother-in-law that I can be, based on my experience with my mother-in-law. It didn't start off on a good foot.
Yeah.
But it ended off well, and thank God for Michael, that he made sure that it was right before we started, but it didn't start off the way that I hoped it would have started off. So because of that, I had planned that I will not put through my daughters-in-law or son-in-law what I went through.
Yeah.
So
I think if you think, you see, it would be a little difficult at first if a daughter-in-law comes into your life, because remember, you would only be focusing on your child and what you want for your child. So, you know, you might be very critical of that person. But what helps is if you think of that daughter-in-law not as a daughter-in-law, but as another daughter. That will help. And the way you would know if you are treating her in the right way is by her response to you.
Okay.
Because as I said, Naomi really impressed me as a mother-in-law and made me want to be the best mother-in-law that I could be. Because I say, you know, if she could elicit that kind of response from her daughter-in-law, that she was willing to give up all her comforts, all the comforts that she could have had, just to be able to stay with her mother-in-law and take care of her. I'm like, wow. So, but God has to be in the forefront of it all. If he is not in it, well then, you know, it wouldn't work. He has to be there for guidance. You have to go to him any little problem that you may be experiencing. You make sure you go to him first and ask for guidance and counsel.
And I support that statement, sister. My thing taken from Naomi, I don't know, I didn't write it down, but was her deep faith in God that brought about all her characteristics.
Yes.
So that's what I took from there. And as Sister Antonia said, sometimes you have in your heart you want to be the best mother-in-law, but not all the time it turns out to be that way.
Yeah.
But we still have to focus on God. We still have to know that regardless of what the situation is with you and your daughter-in-law, we got to make our part right in the sight of God.
Yes.
I think I love, that strikes me with Naomi, her deep faith in God. And I think once we stay on that, everything else will fall into place.
Yes,
you know?
Definitely.
And this is what I took from the lesson. We got to have that rooted, grounded faith in God in order to go through all the things that we go through.
Amen. Amen.
Knowing that He will bring us through.
Yes,
So that's my
definitely.
comment. I didn't understand when you started. One of the things I wanted to clarify. Did you say no? It was from bitter to better,
No, I said from better to bitter.
Yeah, right. That's what I
better.
thought it was. Yes, and I heard bitter to better, and I say it has to be better to bitter. So I wanted to just make sure.
She was better after the bitter. Right,
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, she started out better because she's the one who said that she left when she left her homeland, she left married and secure and everything, and then she had so much distress. She lost all the men in her family, her husband, her sons, everybody, and she's a widow now, nobody to care for her. And so she felt bitterness. And she changed her name to Mara because of that.
Right,
But
yeah.
God had a plan for her. And
to make her better again.
To make her better again, yes.
Yeah, okay. Got your point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Just thanking Sister Sandra for the lesson. And it's always inspiring, when we do these lessons to get the different angles. You would read the story and, you read, you may get something, but the different angles that are brought out. And I really want to thank Sister Sandra, and even when I reflect on
my mother-in-law, you know, I have to say thank God from the first day I met her, even before there was a talk of me becoming her daughter-in-law, you know, she embraced me the very first day she met me. As a matter of fact, you know, she told Yusuf that, you know, in anything that we have, she's going to take my side, so let him not come to complain. So she embraced me as a daughter from day one, you know, and I'm thankful for that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I have been around, you know, and observed Sister Tonya, and I really admire her. And, you know, she also inspires me and pattern, you know, help me to be able to pattern the way she operates as a mother-in-law and a grandmother. You know, I think I could talk for Gayleen and say I know she's one of the best mother-in-laws and grandmother out there. I can say that because I'm around. And, you know, she inspires me. And, you know, I hope that we can
That's
take
good.
example from
Thank
that.
God for that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
We
Well,
thank
I
God
guess
when we could
I was.
encourage each other and inspire each other.
Yes.
Well,
Oh,
I
there are
guess
lot of
I will speak now when I was.
Oh, she's all right. Oh, yeah. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Yes, Sister Tony, I must say that, you know, you are a great mother-in-law. I talk from experience. For those who don't know, I'm her daughter-in-law. Yeah, so I too, Sister Candice, look at her as an example and pattern I try my best to pattern after her in a lot of ways, a lot of different aspects of my life. And I hope that one day I can be a great mother-in-law and grandmother and mother that she is, and wife. Yes, I try to pattern myself in all of these ways because she's really, really, really a great exemplar.
Yes.
And I thank the Lord for her.
See, Antonia, you're doing a good job. No monster-in-law there.
Well, allow me to be the sour
I would like to second that motion, even though I'm not a daughter-in-law.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Congratulations to all the good mother-in-law and good daughter-in-laws.
Yeah.
Let's get real. Let's get real and deal with the other side of it.
All right.
You know, there's some horrible husband's mother. I guess you all say mother-in-law and sister-in-law and daughter-in-law. It's, you know, I guess that's the name they are called. I don't have that experience. My husband's mother is aged and bedridden, so I have never had any negative experience. But I know of many people who have had some horrible experiences with those women who are their husband's mother. And it is real, and it must be, you know, we can't deal with a topic like this and don't deal with that aspect of it. And how do you, or how do we, as Christian women, deal with those husband's mother who out of place? How do you deal with them? That's something that we need to look at that. We can't pretend that it doesn't exist, because I'm sure and believe that there are persons, Christian women, who experience that all the time. So again, to all the great ones and who are doing a good job, and we have to pray for them that they continue and that they can influence the others. But how, as Christian women, do we deal with those horrible people? How? You have some sisters who may be experiencing it and they may not say it, and they may be going through that struggle. How do they deal? As I said before, I have never experienced that, thank God, because I know I would have dealt with it. But how do we assist those sisters who have those negative experiences? How? Pray for them? Just pray for
Well,
them?
if I could share my experience. When I met my mother-in-law, of course, you all know I am from Trinidad. Michael is from Tobago, for those who, you know, we come from two different islands. And long time, you know, there was this, I don't know if it's a stigma or what, that the there was a battle of the islands. The Trinidadians don't like the Tobagonians, and the Tobagonians don't like the Trinidadians. So my mother-in-law went with what she heard. She heard that Trinidad women can cook. All they do is they put on false nails and go and do their hair and buy fast food, because in those days when we got married, there wasn't any fast food outlet in Tobago. All the KFCs and the Royal Castles were in Trinidad. So we started off on a bias. So when she met me, she had all of that in her head. So that unfolded. So the meetings were not, very cordial. And for me, I was a very, introvert, very quiet, very reserved. So in order to make that relationship work, somebody had to reach out. And in my nature, I couldn't reach out because my nature is very quiet and to myself. And of course, it grew worse because, I had a little attitude in those days. So you don't like me, I don't like you, too bad for you. And, so the attitude came out and we were knocking heads. And of course, when I go to her sisters, which is Michael and Sandy, I'll get the same, pick up the same vibes from them because, of course, she's talking to them. So when we were ready to get married now, Michael said that we have to fix this. I said, not me. I don't have anything to tell her. She don't have anything to tell me. She stay in her corner, I'll stay in mine. But, when we sat down and we talked about it, and he felt, because I am coming from Trinidad, I had no family in Tobago besides his family. He is saying, if anything go wrong with me, when we have children, what will happen? I will want the children to go there because of the relationship. And I understood that. So what I did was I invited her out to lunch. Both of us alone. And I told her, this is a lunch. You're going to say what you don't like about me. I'm going to say what I don't like about you. And we're going to come to a common ground for her son's sake and for her grandchildren's sake in the future. So she agreed and we talked, and I told her, as a mother-in-law, I believe that you need to accept the choice that your son has made. You may not like everything about the choice, but I feel you need to accept it. This is his choice and you don't have a say. There's not somebody that you are going to live with. Yes, you have to interact with the person, but you need to accept that choice. So I tell her the first thing to do, you need to accept who I am and learn to understand who I am. So she that's how I found out that, she thought that Trinidad girls can cook. I said, I know how to cook. So I realized there was a lot of things in her head that wasn't really, true. She was just putting things in, fitting, things that weren't there. So we had a nice cordial lunch. She cried, I cried, and, we trashed it out. And thank God, from that day forward, we had a great relationship. And the relationship got so good that Michael had to remind her that I'm not her child, and we reminded her if that relationship wasn't good when she got sick and was bedridden. I packed up my house, moved into her house so that I could take care of her until she died. So the relationship, got so good. She took care of our children. I was working in Trinidad for a long time and she was taking care of the children while I was working in Trinidad. So I believe that before it starts, we probably need to sit down on a one-on-one and try and get to that point where it can be cordial. So that's my 2 cents.
Very well. I think
Story.
so. Yeah, very well. You see, because
Good,
the-
good
these are
story.
things, this is one of the reasons why this group was formed, for the sisters, not just the elder sisters to pass on knowledge, but, and the elder there or the older there does not just mean older in terms of just chronological age, but, experience,
Experience.
experiences that persons would have had. You share those things so that others those who are coming behind and those who are, getting into similar situations can glean and learn from those things and become empowered. What I liked about what Sister Tonya shared is the whole thing about communication.
Mhm.
Because right, because his mother would have received incorrect information, right? And she would have gone on what was the popular belief then, what she would have heard, and didn't get or take the time out to get to know this person for herself. So she was going on what was said, what she heard, what was believed, perception. And of course, it was and it is wrong. So communication. And as Sister Tonya pointed out as well, it is one of the things that I believe that would assist in the creation, development, and the sustainability of a good relationship between those two persons is the involvement, and more so the visionary involvement of the son. And as was shared, Michael did that. He intervened at the right time and indicated what needed to happen, not just for today, because most times we just look at what we can see and we don't look down the road. But he looked at it from the perspective of what is to come. We're going to have children. What would the relationship be? So, the involvement of that son is very important. And that son needs to understand that this is the person that he believes God would have selected for him. And mommy dearest, as much as I love you, know your place. And a lot of young men, a lot of sons aren't willing to have that conversation with their mother or their siblings and so on, to let them know that this is the person that I chose to be my partner for life. Know your place. Respect him or respect her. Show that respect. That son or that daughter should never allow their mother to come into their space and disrespect that spouse. It should never happen. From the time he sees that happening, nip it in the bud right away. Nip it in the bud. But I was going to talk about the third party. Never allow the third party to run your life. The only third party that should run your life is God through Jesus Christ. But that son-in-law, so communication and respect. Respect, because that person may say or do some hurtful things to you as an individual. Try to poison that very son against you or that daughter against you. But our reaction, must always be a reaction as angry as we may be, as hurt as we may be. And of course, it sounds easier. It's easier said than done. But our action and our reaction must always be one with love. So even if you're going to buff them and put them in the place, you buff them and put them in the place with love. Never do it in such a way that at the end of the day, you can't witness to that person. We always have to remember that. Put that person in the place very diplomatically, very respectfully. And when they reflect on it, say, but oh God, she told me so and so, but she did not disrespect me. Because in the end, as I said before, the relationship is not just for today, but it's for the long term. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks very much for sharing, Sister Tonya. And Sister Sandra, thank you for sharing Naomi with us. and what Naomi did.
Yeah. From the story of Naomi, for me, being new into the marriage relationship and having a mother-in-law, the story of Naomi always showed me what was possible. Because during the normal stories of, what was possible, you never got a good story. Yes, you have a mother and you may have siblings also, and they may be older than you and get married or whatever it is. But somehow, whenever you getting into the situation where to have a mother-in-law, it's always the negative stories. And you know that story of Naomi always gave me hope of what was possible, that such a relationship could be formed, and it would be just as if it were mother and daughter, not mother and in-law. you know that it could be possible, and that if we put energy and effort into the relationship, just as everyone has been saying, that you could have a great relationship, and somebody to confide in, somebody to depend on, as a daughter-in-law and as a mother-in-law. You know, it had one day, I not really a day, but a weekend, I went to visit my mom in Trinidad, because I also am from Trinidad and my husband is from Tobago. And someone who knows me in Tobago, never didn't meet me before Tobago, asked me what I'm doing in Trinidad. How come I'm down here? And I said to her that I was going to visit my mother, and she was in shock. She's like, "You left your mother in Tobago, right?" And I had to tell her that was my mother-in-law, and she didn't know. She couldn't tell. She couldn't tell. And I was really happy to know that that's the relationship that is being seen, that they couldn't tell that it wasn't my mother. You know. So it's possible. It's possible. And taking advice from the older sisters, like Sister Sonia, who gives me a lot of advice. So I second the daughter-in-law story for Sister Sonia. It's possible, but you have to put work and effort into it. And you must have respect, you must have communication, you know. And even if you don't agree, there's wisdom with your elders. You as a young person may not understand everything from the culture that you're going into, which is a separate family from your original family. You may not understand everything, or why they do what they do, or why they commemorate in a certain way, or it may not make sense to you logically, but there's wisdom in your elders. So making that relationship work, and gaining the information that they have within them, can help you out in your life currently, with your relationship with your husband and the other relatives in the family as well. So Naomi always gave me hope, to show that it was possible, and I'm glad it is possible.
Just want to share one more thing. You know, um, very, very early I learned this, and I learned this little thing from an old lady, because most of the people I communicate are elderly people. I just like being around them, the stories they share from their experiences and so on. And I remember this old lady saying to me, you know, never, to be Ghanaian, so she said it in dialect, and I'll attempt to do it. She said, never bad talk your man, your husband with people. There's wisdom in that, Don't ill speak, standard English now. Don't ill speak your spouse with people, or don't encourage people to ill speak your spouse. So you may be in a setting and the people may be saying something and you join in, you're good for nothing. How could you do that? that is, to me, that is like encouraging persons to see that person in that light. You know, I'm not saying that you're going to be naive, and if there are problems, things like physical abuse and so on, that you're not going to share that with somebody who you are close to, and somebody who you have that confidence in, that will pray for you, help you in that situation. But to get engaged in those idle talk and to ill speak your spouse, don't encourage it at all, at all. Most of, or some of the sisters here would know, my husband is visually impaired. He's not blind, he's visually impaired. He has glaucoma, we did surgery and so on. And I remember, I like to put people in their place, because sometimes some people really don't know their place and you have to help them get back into it. I remember about 2 months before I got married, and a colleague of mine was so out of place and said to me, "Girl, you sure you want to marry that blind man?" Well, I know she made a big mistake there. So I said to her in a very diplomatic and very nice way, I am going to be very, I said, first of all, my husband to be is not blind. I said, and secondly, I prefer to marry a blind man than to marry an unfaithful man, because she's married and her husband is unfaithful to her. So, I let her know right away that, I prefer to, if it is that I was to marry a blind man, I prefer to do that than to marry a man who I know is unfaithful and will be unfaithful to me. So I don't encourage that. I don't encourage, that negative and ill speaking about your spouse. In fact, I don't like the ill speaking about anybody at all. But as wives, who we are married, we are wives. I would say husband or wife. Try to always speak an encouraging word about your spouse. And even if that negative thing comes from that in-law who is his parent, even at that point in time, don't encourage and engage in negative talk about your spouse.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Sadie. Anyone else wants to share anything?
Hi, good night. Karina here. You're hearing me?
Yes, loud and
Are
Right.
you hearing me?
Yes.
Oh,
Hello? Somebody else speaking?
hello? Hello?
Sister
Somebody else trying to
Serene,
speak.
Yeah, I was
Serene, you hold
saying
on,
I
hold
just,
on 1 second. Hold on.
yes, okay, I'll do that. Yes, I heard somebody else again.
Yes, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Sister Sandra for the lesson, and also you, Sister Antonia, and Sister Sadie for talking about this whole mother-in-law issue and stuff. I think, at least from my experience, seeing my mother, my parents, it was terrible. And I learned what not to do, because I would hear my mother talking stories about her mother-in-law. I would hear it, we would hear it, and as children, we know what's going on. So I want to thank the ladies for the advice given and how to deal with stuff. And I definitely learned what not to do from my experience as a child. And hopefully I will have a better relationship with my mother-in-law than my mother had with hers. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I thought you was going to bad talking mother-in-law. I'm not going to tell you, remember she on, eh?
Nah, no. She's a good
That's
one.
what you like to.
Good one. She's a good one.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
She's a good one.
I like that.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Sister Serena, you can go ahead. Sister Serena there? Okay. In the meantime, anyone else?
Hi.
Oh, you're there? Okay. So you could go ahead. You have to unmute.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I said I just wanted to comment on Sister Sadie. Commend her for that sound advice of not ill speaking your husband. And I want to put myself in the position because regardless of what I went through with my marriage, never told anyone, not even my mother. So when the marriage ended, everybody oh, you know what happened? You know, I never hear Serene talk anything about her husband, and I think that is so true, Sister Sadie, and I wish that we all could do that. Sister Sonia, I just love your testimony. Yeah, didn't do some of the things you did, but to God be the glory. She is not here anymore. And I really tried to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. It did not turn out that way. Sister Sadie, in terms of, I remember this girl used to come in the office, and every time she comes, she says something ill about her husband. And I pulled her aside and I said, let me tell you this, girl, whatever happened in your home, please keep it there. Right? We all are Christians and we need at times, I am not telling anybody, do not tell somebody else who would help you, pray with you. But I think I want to support Sister Sadie's advice wholeheartedly. So that's just my comment there.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else want to share?
Good night, ladies.
Cracking up a little bit though.
Yeah, I think so.
Sakami?
Sisters, I'm leaving you all. I have a prayer meeting starting in a couple of minutes. So I'll
thank you so much
exit now. God bless you all.
Yes.
And continue the good work.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Sister Serene.
Bye.
Bye.
Sister Kami, you wanted to say something?
I think Sister Kabi probably get audio issues.
We're seeing you, but we're not hearing you.
You're looking lovely, but we're not hearing you.
Like she's not hearing us either.
Yeah. Some sort of audio problem.
All right. Anybody else in the meantime? I
have a question for Sister Antonia. If the lunch with your mother-in-law was not fruitful, in that you had done all you needed to do, you had reached out to her, and it went negatively, how would you have dealt with that going forward?
I think I may have tried again. Not right away, but I may have tried and taken a different approach, and I may have invited Michael to come along as well, so that he may be able to get through to her in ways that I may not have been able to do. I think I may have done that. But it took a lot of prayer and fast before I did that. Imagine. It's not me to go and do that. So I did a lot of praying and fasting and talking to God, and so map it out how I'm going to do it, stand up in front of the mirror and talk it out. And I did a lot of that first before I actually, had it. Chose my words carefully and try not to accuse, get all my facts. So when I went to her, I had all the facts, because even when I tell her, you go on the phone and you talk to your sisters and say, how you know that? I said, because I pick up, certain things they say and stuff. So I had all my facts. So it was hard for her not to give in, and have a cordial relationship, because a lot of groundwork was done before.
I think we're on now. Good evening.
Oh, yes.
Yes, good evening.
well, I no longer have a mother-in-law, and I think I had a good relationship with my mother-in-law. But just a question: if you didn't have something in common to build the relationship with your mother-in-law, what, what, how would you initiate that sort of relationship? For example, despite me thinking that I may have had a good relationship with my mother, a relatively good one, there are certain things that she would do with her other daughter-in-law that I thought that, hey, why shouldn't try those things with me? You know, why shouldn't request those things from me? You know, and it showed me that I was compartmentalized in a particular way. And she wouldn't negatively bring it up or bring up anything, just certain things she asked certain people to do. And in retrospect, and hearing everybody talk about relationships, I'm wondering if I may have missed an opportunity at any point in time to address if there may have been an issue with certain things. But how do you build things like everybody know that Tamara doesn't like to cook? It's not one of her things that she likes to do. Not that I'm not good at it. I think I've significantly improved thanks to COVID. And so it's just, and that's something that I think my mother-in-law was big on, that sort of cooking thing. And so my husband's brother's girlfriend, well, yeah, had a really tight relationship with her. And mind you, he may not have been married to her, but I thought that she moved more like a daughter-in-law than probably me. So I don't know how to explain it, but that's how in retrospect, when you're looking at it. So if you do not, well, I don't think I had that many things in common. But if you don't think that you have something in common or common interest to build that relationship on, where do you suggest you start?
Who are you talking to, me?
I'm throwing it out there to everybody out there who have a mother-in-law or who have an opinion.
I will think, you know, if you think that relationship that you want, and you think that you can have a good relationship, you'll just have to create it.
Mm-hmm.
So you may need to get into her interests just for her sake. You may not like to cook, but she likes to cook. So you may have to give up one of your days and say, come, you know, teach me how to make something, especially if it's a dish that she normally makes for her son, which is now your husband.
Okay.
So you say, but you know, Joel liked this dish and he said you could make it because, you know, men feel that their mothers are the best cook. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how you cook, they still feel that their mothers are the best cook. So, you know, Joel like this particular dish. I mean, you can't do it now, but I'm just throwing it out there. And he likes how you make it a certain way. And
right.
Teach me how to make it, or how do you do it? You know, so you try and you get her interested in the things that she liked to do for her son. And she's seeing that you are interested in it as well.
Okay. That's a really good place to start.
I don't know if anybody else have anything, Sandra.
I think sometimes you probably need to let things unfold. This example is not a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law issue, but you know, it sort of would help, because I remember when I was having Jamila, my cousin, who is around probably about 2 years older than I am, but she was very experienced with children and taking care of children, and she's a Trinidadian. So she was coming up to stay with me, and my mother-in-law was totally upset. The same issue that Sister Tonya our mother-in-law had. She's a Trinidadian. What Trinidadian know about taking care of children? They just know to pretty up themselves. And then so what I did, I invited her to come over too. So she was there when my cousin came. And then when she saw her, because my cousin was, as I say, was Trinidad and red girl, and she was a pretty up and a makeup person. So when she saw her, of course, she was convinced that I was crazy. But after she spent time with her and she saw how she operated, she herself turned around and said, wow, I have to change my mind. So sometimes you probably need to just let things unfold in its natural self, and they would observe. And once they have an open mind, they would realize that, hey, look, probably this is not the way I thought it was. So that could be one of the ways.
Yeah, that is a good point. The thing is that if you already have preconceived notions about the other person, it you will always have a negative attitude towards them. So once they are willing, and I say this, if they are willing, because sometimes, as somebody else said, I can't remember who said it, they tried and it didn't work out. So they have to, you have to decide if you really want this thing to work. Get to know the other person, get to know things about them that you didn't know before, so that you will be able to develop that relationship, because you can't develop a relationship with somebody who you don't really know and you feel you know this about them. As Tonya said, her mother-in-law thought because she was a Trinidadian that, she was not going to make a good wife. And she was able to change her mind. So getting to know the other person is where you have to begin, and make sure that God is in the forefront. Ask God for directions, ask God for guidance, because when you ask God to help you in something that is worthwhile, He always does, He always gives you the right ideas and the right things that you need to say. So
Okay, you finished, Sandra?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would just like to add one thing on top of that for Maria's question. Every mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship is not the same. So even though you may be looking at your sister-in-law's relationship with your mother-in-law, the relationship you have with her is specific to the two of you, and the one she has with your sister-in-law is specific to the two of them and to their relationship with one another. So you may look at it and say, she's doing more with your sister-in-law, you know, and not with you. But the thing she's doing with you, she may not be doing with her at all. So every relationship is different, because me getting to my family through marriage, I was like kind of out of the loop really, because I'm not from here, and I I completely speak a different language, even though it's English, because when they speak, I hear the words, but I don't necessarily understand the content of the conversation, even though the words are the same, and I understand the words per se, you know. So, you know, you just build what you can over time and offer your love and yourself as real as you are, and what you can do, you know, in that relationship. And that will build over time. You don't have to look at the other relationships, because in my case, there's many other in-laws, you know. I'm the last one in the family of many, 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 you know, those who bake well and those who cook well and those who do this well and do that well, and they're always around, So what can me, the only and lowly one that just come on the scene can offer, that everybody else is not already doing, plus she has a lot of daughters that are all doing an amazing bakers and amazing cooks and amazing this, and they do her hair and they do this, and who sews and who makes, and I don't do any of those things. you know I can just be me. That's it. Just be me. We talk a little bit, we laugh a little bit, you know, and I have to be happy with that until it builds to something more, you know, until we get to know each other better, you know. So I try not to compare myself to the other in-laws and what they can do with her or for her or what she relies on them to do, you know, because, you know, eventually she'll rely on you, you know, not you necessarily because your mother-in-law has passed, but, you know, eventually there will be something that she would depend on you for, that she won't depend on you for anything else. And it may be the smallest thing, but it's still something, you know. So with me, I did the example, when we're having like a family event or anything like that, um, she would send a call to me to help her put on her clothes. Her daughters would be there, her other daughter-in-laws would be there, and she'd send specifically ask me to help put on her clothes. I don't know why. I don't know what's the difference between me and anybody else, but that's just what she asked for, and I can do that, and I do it. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, Sister Lucina. All right, so as we wrap up, if anyone else have anything, now is your time. Okay, so before we close, you know, I really want to thank everybody. Thank you, Sister Sandra. You know, that lesson, it really opened up the discussion and doors, and we have information that we can take with us. Even though you're not a mother-in-law, you have a mother-in-law, there are some of us who will be mother-in-law later on, and you know, we can be the best that we can. Depends, you know, don't look at who the person is, look at who you are and what you can give as a mother-in-law. We also have our new sister baptized yesterday, Sister Trudy Charles. She's on, you know, and I'm really glad that she was able to log on. Welcome, Sister Trudy. So you all who don't know her, could you put on a video so everybody can see you? If you can, I don't know if you're in work or if you're at home. If you can, if not, well, okay. Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Hi, Trudy.
Are you at work? Okay, all right. Okay,
yes,
so
I've seen her on earlier.
yes, so welcome.
I'm at work, I just listening.
All right, okay.
Very good.
Glad you could tune in. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so as we close, you know, we thank you all. We have any prayer requests? Remember Sister Woodson in your prayer. She's home now and doing a little better. I spoke to her granddaughter today. I saw her and she said she has started to eat on her own, and but she isn't remembering things as well as she used to. But she's doing much better than she was at the hospital. So please keep her in your prayers. Right, so let's close. We can ask Sister Gayleen, you there?
Yeah.
Can you pray, close us off, please?
So, your almighty Jahim making mischief.
Oh.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to gather as ladies, Lord, to share and to receive what, you know, was prepared for us. So God, thank you for the lessons that were brought forward, Lord, and I pray that as we go forward, we'll take all into account, we may be better individuals, better mother-in-laws, better daughter-in-laws, better women.
Sister Gayleen, where did you go?
Looking like she got bumped.
I think she disappeared.
Yeah. Freed herself right off the screen.
Oh my word. Okay. So thank you all ladies for being here this evening. How is Zoom doing for you all?
Oh, she's
bumped
back.
off there. Sorry.
Oh, you're back?
Amen.
Amen.
You kept half of the prayer for yourself.
Oh gosh, you are doing what's all here? Oh Lord.